The transport shuttle descended through violet clouds as James Carter pressed his face against the window. His reflection stared back at him, showing a young man with messy brown hair and nervous green eyes. At 26 years old, he was the youngest diplomat Earth had ever sent on a solo mission. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his uniform collar for the 10th time. The planet Viridian appeared below like a jewel. Silver oceans sparkled under two suns. Cities of gleaming towers rose from emerald forests. Everything looked so alien, yet somehow peaceful. James had spent 6 months preparing for this mission. He had studied their language, customs, and history until his brain felt ready to explode. Now the moment had arrived, and his stomach twisted with anxiety. The shuttle landed on a platform made of smooth, white stone. James took a deep breath, grabbed his diplomatic case, and stepped out into his future. The air tasted sweet, like honey mixed with flowers. The gravity felt lighter than Earth, making each step feel bouncy. A tall figure approached him. The being had smooth, indigo skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Forearms extended from a graceful body wrapped in flowing silver robes. Large violet eyes studied James with curiosity. 2 small antennae curved gently from the forehead. "Greetings, Ambassador Carter. I am Chancellor Voren," the being said in perfect English. "Welcome to Viridian. The Queen awaits your presence." James bowed respectfully, just as he had practiced. "Thank you, Chancellor. I am honored to represent Earth in these historic negotiations." They walked through gardens filled with plants that hummed softly and glowed with inner light. Strange birds with crystal feathers sang melodies that made James feel calm. Servants with different shades of purple and blue skin paused in their work to watch the human pass. Some whispered excitedly. Others bowed their heads. The palace rose before them like a mountain of pearl. Spires reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that seemed to float in the air. Guards stood at attention, their armor reflecting rainbow colors. As James climbed the wide stairs, his heart hammered against his ribs. The throne room took his breath away. The ceiling showed the actual sky through some kind of transparent crystal. Sunlight poured down in golden streams. Pillars carved with intricate patterns held up balconies where nobles gathered to watch. A carpet of living moss led to the throne itself, which grew from the floor like a tree of silver metal. And there, seated upon that throne, was Queen Seraphina. James forgot every word of his carefully prepared speech. She was magnificent. Her skin was the color of deep twilight, dark purple with hints of blue. Long white hair flowed past her shoulders like moonlight made solid. Her eyes were pure amber, glowing softly as they fixed upon him. She wore a gown that seemed woven from starlight, changing colors as she moved. A crown of living flowers rested on her head, petals opening and closing gently. "Approach, human," her voice rang out like music. James walked forward on shaking legs. He bowed deeply, holding the position for exactly 5 seconds as protocol required. "Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and our United Council. We seek friendship between our worlds." Queen Seraphina rose from her throne and descended the steps. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, but moved with incredible grace. She studied James closely, walking around him once. Her amber eyes seemed to look into his soul. "You are very young," she observed. "Does Earth not trust experienced diplomats with such important matters?" "They trust me to speak with honesty and hope, Your Majesty," James replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Sometimes fresh eyes see possibilities that old ones miss." A small smile touched her lips. "Interesting answer. Very well, young James Carter. Let's see if your hope can build bridges between stars." The negotiations lasted through the afternoon. James sat at a long table with Queen Seraphina, Chancellor Voren, and several advisors. They discussed trade routes, technology exchange, and mutual defense. James was surprised by how intelligent and thoughtful the Queen proved to be. She asked challenging questions about Earth's resources and intentions. She pointed out potential problems in every proposal. But James held his own. He presented Earth's offers clearly and honestly. When he did not know an answer, he admitted it rather than guessing. The Queen seemed to appreciate his truthfulness. By evening, they had drafted a preliminary agreement that satisfied both sides. "Your Majesty," James said as they finished, "I must say I am impressed by your wisdom and foresight. This treaty will benefit both our peoples greatly." "You have proven yourself capable, Ambassador Carter," the Queen replied. "Perhaps this alliance will flourish after all." Chancellor Vorin clapped two of his four hands together. "This calls for celebration. Let us feast in honor of this new friendship." The banquet hall glittered with thousands of floating lights. Tables overflowed with exotic foods from across Viridian. Musicians played instruments that created visible sound waves in the air, painting the space with color and melody. Nobles danced in complex patterns that looked like living geometry. James sat near the Queen at the head table. He tried various dishes, some delicious and some very strange. The Viridians laughed good-naturedly when he made funny faces at their spicy soup. Wine flowed freely, though James drank carefully. He needed to keep his wits sharp. As the evening progressed, James felt warm and happy. His first mission was succeeding beyond his hopes. He wanted to express his gratitude properly. He stood, raising his glass. The room gradually fell quiet. "Your Majesty," James began, "today has been wonderful. I want to thank you for your graciousness and wisdom." He paused, tried to remember the formal Viridian phrase for deep respect. His translator device hummed against his ear. He opened his mouth to speak the carefully chosen words. But at that exact moment, the translator sparked. A tiny electrical surge, caused by the wine he had spilled earlier, created a malfunction. The device pulled from an entirely different database, accessing ancient ceremonial texts. What came out of James' mouth was not what he intended. "By the twin suns that light our days, by the stars that guide our nights, I bind my soul to yours eternally. My heart beats only for you, my light, my life, my eternal beloved." The words echoed through the silent hall in perfect ancient Viridian. James blinked in confusion. "Wait, that is not what I meant to say. I was just trying to—" Suddenly, every Viridian in the room leaped to their feet. They cheered wildly, shouting and clapping. Some were crying. Others were dancing. The noise was deafening. "What is happening?" James shouted to Chancellor Vorin. The Chancellor stared at him with wide eyes. "Ambassador Carter, you have just spoken the sacred vow of eternal binding. You have proposed marriage to Queen Seraphina in our most ancient and holy language." James felt the blood drain from his face. "I did what?" Queen Seraphina stood slowly. Her amber eyes locked onto James with an intensity that made him freeze. She placed one hand over her heart, a gesture he did not understand. "I accept your vow, James Carter of Earth," she declared in a voice that filled the entire hall. "You are now my promised husband. Our souls are bound by sacred law." "No, no, no." James waved his hands frantically. "There was a mistake. My translator malfunctioned. I did not mean to." "The vow cannot be broken," the Queen interrupted, though something flickered in her eyes. "Our laws are absolute. Once spoken, the words become reality." "But I'm just here for negotiations," James protested desperately. "You are here for much more now," Seraphina said softly. "Guards, escort my promised one to the royal chambers. He has had a long and eventful day." For massive guards surrounded James. They were not rough, but their grip was firm. "Your Majesty, please listen to me. This is all a huge misunderstanding." The Queen simply gazed at him with an expression he could not read. "Rest well, James Carter. Tomorrow we will discuss our future together." As the guards led him away, James looked back desperately. The celebration continued around him. Nobles toasted his health. Musicians played joyful songs. Everyone seemed thrilled except him. One malfunction, one wrong phrase. And now James Carter, young diplomat from Earth, was engaged to the most powerful queen in this sector of space. His mission had succeeded in the worst possible way. James spent his first night in the royal chambers staring at the ceiling. The room was enormous, larger than any space he had ever occupied. The bed could fit 6 people comfortably. Strange plants grew from the walls, their leaves glowing softly in shades of blue and green. A balcony overlooked the city, where lights twinkled like earthbound stars. He had tried everything to escape or contact Earth. The doors were locked from outside. His communicator showed only one message: communication restricted by royal decree. Even the windows were sealed with some invisible force field. He was a prisoner in a golden cage. Morning came too quickly. The twin suns rose, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. James sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, when someone knocked softly. "Enter," he called out tiredly. A young Viridian stepped inside, carrying a tray. This one looked different from the others. His skin was pale lavender instead of deep purple. He seemed younger, perhaps equivalent to a human teenager. His movements were cautious, almost nervous. "Good morning, Lord James. I am Torin, your personal attendant. I brought breakfast." "I'm not a lord," James said bitterly. "I am a prisoner who made a stupid mistake." Torin set the tray down on a floating table. He glanced at the door nervously before speaking in a lower voice. "Please be careful, my lord. The palace has many years. Not everyone is happy about your engagement to the queen." Something in his tone made James look up sharply. "You think this is wrong too, don't you?" Torin hesitated, then nodded slightly. "I believe love should be freely chosen, not bound by ancient laws. But I'm only a servant. My opinions matter little." "They matter to me," James said. "Tell me honestly, is there any way to break this engagement?" Torin bit his lip. "The sacred vow has only been broken once in our history, 3,000 years ago. The one who broke it was executed publicly. The law exists to prevent people from making false promises." James felt his hope crumble. "So I'm truly stuck. Unless," Torin began, then stopped himself. "Unless what?" James pressed urgently. "Unless the queen herself releases you. She has that power, but no Viridian monarch has ever done so. It would bring great shame upon her." Before James could respond, the door opened again. Queen Seraphina entered, and Torin immediately bowed low and hurried out. The queen wore a simpler dress today, deep green like earth forests. Her white hair was braided, showing the elegant curve of her neck. "You did not eat," she observed, looking at the untouched tray. "I have no appetite," James replied, trying to sound brave, even though his hands shook. The queen moved to the balcony, gazing out at her city. "I understand you are angry." "Angry?" James laughed without humor. "I am engaged to someone I just met because my equipment failed. How should I feel?" "Honored, perhaps," Seraphina suggested. But there was sadness in her voice that made James pause. He studied her more carefully. Dark circles shadowed her amber eyes. Her shoulders seemed heavy, as if carrying an invisible weight. For the first time, James saw past her beauty and power to something else. Loneliness. "You did not want this either, did you?" he asked quietly. Seraphina turned to face him, surprise flickering across her features. "Why want matters little? I am queen. I exist to serve my people." "That is not an answer." She was silent for a long moment. Then she moved to a chair and sat, a gesture that seemed almost human in its weariness. "I have ruled Viridian for 20 years, since my mother died. In all that time, I have never chosen anything for myself. Every decision, every action, every word is calculated for the good of my people." James sat across from her slowly. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," she admitted. "When you spoke the sacred vow last night, I could have refused. I have that right. But my advisors, the nobles, the people, they all expected me to accept. A union with Earth could strengthen our position in the galaxy. So I did my duty, even though you do not love me. Even though I do not know you," she corrected gently. "Love is a luxury queens rarely afford." They sat in silence, two prisoners of circumstance. James found himself seeing Seraphina differently now, not as his captor, but as someone equally trapped. "Can I ask you something?" James said. "Why have you never married before? You must have had many opportunities." Seraphina smiled sadly. "I have had countless diplomatic proposals. Every alliance comes with a marriage offer, but none felt right. I kept hoping that somehow, somewhere, I might find someone who wanted me, not my crown. And instead you got me, a clumsy human who accidentally proposed." To his surprise, she laughed. It was a beautiful sound like bells in the wind. Yes, perhaps the universe has a sense of humor. Over the following days, an unexpected routine developed. Serafina would visit James' chambers each morning. They would talk, carefully at first, then more freely. She told him about Viridian, about the pressure of leadership, about the loneliness of power. He told her about Earth, about his dreams of bringing worlds together, about his fear of failure. James discovered that Serafina loved poetry and music. She played an instrument that looked like a harp made of light, creating melodies that made his heart ache with beauty. He taught her about Earth literature, reciting Shakespeare and Whitman from memory. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the twin suns set, Serafina asked, "Do you have someone waiting for you on Earth? A lover?" James shook his head. "I was always too focused on my career. I told myself there would be time for love later. And now later has arrived in the most unexpected way," she said softly. Their eyes met, and James felt something shift in his chest. When had she stopped being his captor and become his friend? But peace was not meant to last. On the 10th night, James woke to the sound of breaking glass. Dark figures moved through his room. Before he could shout, a hand covered his mouth. He struggled, but these attackers were strong. "Do not make noise, human," a voice hissed. "We are here to free you from this farce of an engagement." They dragged him through secret passages in the palace walls. James tried to fight, but they bound his hands. They emerged in a hidden chamber where a group of Viridian nobles waited. Their faces were hard and angry. A tall Viridian with scarred indigo skin stepped forward. "I am Lord Dravik. We are the true path. Those who believe Viridian should not ally with lesser species like humans." "You are making a mistake," James said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The Queen accepted the engagement legally." "The Queen is weak," Dravik spat. "She dishonors our people by binding herself to an alien. We will kill you and blame Earth for breaking the treaty. Then we will have war, as it should be." James felt cold fear spread through him. "You are insane. We are patriots," Dravik corrected. "And you, human, are about to become a martyr." Dravik drew a curved blade that glowed with energy. James closed his eyes, thinking of Earth, of his family, of Serafina. Suddenly the wall exploded inward. Queen Serafina stood in the opening, her eyes blazing with golden fire. Her hands crackled with energy James had not known she possessed. "Step away from him," she commanded, her voice carrying absolute authority. "Your Majesty," Dravik began, but she cut him off. "You dare attack my promised husband? You dare conspire against your queen? Guards, seize them all." Royal guards poured into the chamber. The conspirators tried to fight, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Serafina rushed to James, using her energy to cut his bonds. "Are you hurt?" she asked urgently, her hands checking him for injuries. "I am fine," James said, stunned by her concern. "How did you find me?" "Torin heard whispers and came to me immediately," she explained. "I will not lose you, James Carter. Not to conspirators, not to anyone." Their faces were inches apart. James saw fear in her eyes, real fear, and something else. Something that made his heart race. "Serafina," he whispered, and she leaned forward, closing the distance between them. Their lips met softly at first, then with growing passion. The kiss felt like coming home, like finding something he had not known he was searching for. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I think," James said quietly, "I am beginning to understand why the universe brought me here." Serafina smiled, really smiled, for the first time since he had met her. "As am I, my promised one. As am I." The morning after the assassination attempt, James woke with a new sense of purpose. The conspirators were in prison, but Torin had brought disturbing news during breakfast. Lord Dravik was just one part of a larger movement. The True Path had members throughout the government and military. "We need to expose them all," James told Serafina as they met in her private study. "If we do not root out this conspiracy completely, they will try again." Serafina paced the room, her white hair flowing behind her. "I have ruled through trust and honor. The idea that so many of my people plot against me feels like a wound in my heart." James stood and took her hand gently. Then let us heal that wound together. On Earth, we have investigative techniques that might help. We can combine human methods with Viridian technology. She looked at him with those amber eyes, and he saw trust there. Show me. They worked tirelessly for the next week. James taught Serafina about pattern analysis and communication tracking. She showed him how to use Viridian technology to scan for hidden meetings and encrypted messages. Torin helped them secretly, using his low status to move through the palace unnoticed and gather information. Late one night, as they reviewed data in the study, Serafina laughed suddenly. James looked up from his work, surprised. "What is funny?" he asked. "Us," she said, gesturing at their scattered notes and glowing screens. A queen and an accidental diplomat playing detective together. If someone had told me a month ago that this would be my life, I would have thought them mad. James smiled. If someone had told me I would fall in love with an alien queen, I would have laughed. The words hung in the air between them. Serafina set down the datapad she was holding. "Say that again," she whispered. "I love you," James said clearly. "I know it started with a mistake, but what I feel now is real. You are brilliant, compassionate, strong, and beautiful. You carry the weight of a world on your shoulders, yet you still find time to care for one confused human." Tears gathered in Serafina's eyes, sparkling like diamonds. "I love you too, James Carter. I think I started falling for you the moment you admitted your mistake so honestly. You see me, not just the crown I wear." They kissed again, longer this time, and James felt complete in a way he never had before. Their investigation finally bore fruit. Following a trail of secret communications, they discovered the conspiracy's true scope. Nearly 30 nobles and 5 military commanders were involved. The leader was not Dravik, but someone much closer to the throne. Chancellor Vorin himself. James could not believe it at first. Vorin had welcomed him to Viridian, had helped negotiate the treaty. But the evidence was clear. The Chancellor wanted war with Earth to expand Viridian's power. He had seen James's accidental proposal as an opportunity to create chaos. "We must act carefully," Serafina said as they planned. "Vorin has many loyal followers. If we move too quickly, we could trigger a civil war. Then we use his own plan against him," James suggested. "We let him think he is winning." They arranged a public audience in the throne room, announcing it as a ceremony to formalize the engagement treaty. All the nobles were invited, including the conspirators. Serafina sat on her throne, looking regal and calm. James stood beside her in formal Earth diplomatic robes. Chancellor Vorin stepped forward, confident and smiling. "Your Majesty, the people rejoice at your coming union. Shall we proceed with the formalities?" "Actually, Chancellor," Serafina said coldly, "we have other matters to discuss first, such as your conspiracy to murder my promised husband and provoke war with Earth." The throne room erupted in shocked whispers. Vorin's face went pale, then hardened. "You have no proof, do we not?" James stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Communications between you and the true path appeared in the air, showing clearly Vorin's orders and plans. Video footage showed secret meetings. Financial records proved he had been funding the movement for years. Vorin looked around desperately at his co-conspirators. Now he shouted, "Attack now!" But nothing happened. The nobles and commanders who were part of the plot stood frozen, surrounded by loyal guards. "We arrested your allies this morning," Serafina explained, "while you slept, thinking yourself safe." "You cannot do this," Vorin snarled. "I am Chancellor. I have rights." "You have the right to a fair trial, which you will receive," Serafina said. "Guards, take him away." As Vorin was dragged from the throne room, screaming threats and curses, the remaining nobles began to cheer. Many had not known about the conspiracy and were relieved to see justice served. In the days that followed, the trials proceeded swiftly. The evidence was overwhelming. Vorin and his co-conspirators were found guilty and sentenced to exile on a remote moon. Viridian law forbade execution, but the punishment was severe enough. With the conspiracy crushed, a new peace settled over the planet. The people celebrated their queen's wisdom and her brave human partner. Earth sent messages of congratulations and relief. The alliance was stronger than ever. One evening, Serafina found James on their private balcony, staring at the stars. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her head on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I am thinking how strange life is," James replied. "I came here terrified of failure. I failed in the most spectacular way possible. And yet, somehow, I found everything I never knew I needed." "The universe works in mysterious ways," Serafina said. "My mother used to tell me that the right path often looks wrong at first." James turned in her arms to face her. "So what happens now? Do we really go through with this wedding?" Serafina smiled, that beautiful smile that made his heart sing. "James Carter, I am going to ask you something, and I want you to answer with complete honesty. No laws, no obligations, no duty. Just truth." She took his hands in hers. "Will you marry me? Not because an ancient vow binds you, not because diplomacy requires it, but because you choose it freely?" James felt tears in his eyes. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. I choose you, Serafina. I choose this life, this world, this love." "Then let us be married," she said. "Let us show the galaxy that love can bridge any distance, any difference." The wedding took place under the twin suns on the palace grounds. Thousands of Iridians attended, along with a delegation from Earth, including James's proud parents. The ceremony blended traditions from both worlds. They exchanged rings of Earth gold and Viridian crystal. They spoke vows in both languages, this time with perfectly working translators. When they kissed as husband and wife, the crowd erupted in joyous celebration. Flowers rained from the sky, released by flying drones. Music filled the air, a symphony combining Earth instruments and Viridian technology. That night, alone in their chambers, Serafina and James held each other close. "I never thought I would find happiness," she whispered. "I thought duty would be my only companion." "We make our own happiness," James replied. Together, Earth and Viridian flourished in the years that followed. Trade routes opened. Technology was shared. Cultural exchanges enriched both worlds. And at the center of it all was a marriage that had started with a mistake but became something beautiful. James often thought about that moment in the banquet hall when his translator failed. He could have been angry at fate. He could have fought against his circumstances forever. Instead, he had opened his heart and found love in the most unexpected place. Sometimes, he would joke with Serafina about their unusual beginning. "Remember when I accidentally proposed to you?" He would say. "Best malfunction in history," she would reply, kissing him softly. They ruled Viridian together, James bringing human perspective and innovation, while Serafina provided wisdom and cultural knowledge. They had 3 children who inherited the best of both species. Their eldest daughter had her mother's amber eyes and her father's quick smile. On quiet evenings, James would stand on their balcony and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home. But here, with Serafina by his side, was where he truly belonged. One mistake had changed everything. One broken translator had led to an impossible situation. But through courage, compassion, and the choice to love, that mistake became the greatest blessing of his life. James Carter, the young diplomat who feared failure, had succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. He had not just created an alliance between worlds. He had proven that love knows no boundaries, that understanding bridges all differences, and that sometimes the wrong words at the wrong time can lead to exactly the right place. As Serafina joined him on the balcony, their fingers intertwining naturally, James smiled. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures. But whatever came, they would face it together. And that, James thought as he held his beloved queen close, was all that mattered.